All right, guys, listen up. This is what I would do. Long story short, I'm not going to elaborate at all on these moves, but I do want you to comment if you feel the urge to, about whether you agree with these. I'm not going to make it a one move video. Some of these teams need more than that, but it's like what I would do if I had the ability to do what I would do as any of these football teams. So without further ado, I'm going to start with the Bills and I'm going to go down all the way to the Seahawks. Going row by row. Now, if I were the Bills, here is what I would do if I had the ability to. They obviously extended their wide receiver. I would go out and get the best pass rusher you have. Whether it's interior or edge, I would get the best pass rusher. You have good pass rushers, but Von Miller's getting older, and with the way that you like to run defense, you need a guy alongside Rousseau. Now, Dolphins, here's what you do. You fix your O-line. You make it so you can protect Tua and keep that run game sizzling hot. Where these guys aren't going to essentially be banged up some of the time. You make it so you can run an offense similar to the Eagles. Now, you don't have a power back, but you've got A-Chain, who's a speed demon. You fix your O-line, and you're going to be able to put up so many points a game if you give Tua time. Not that he needs that much time, but there are some plays that he does. New England. You fix your O-line as well. Whether that be signing Trey Smith as a good start, whether that be drafting every single O-lineman you can in the draft without reaching to start that process, to protect Drake May, to really unleash him, give him some time, and see if these receivers are all a bunch of bums or whether or not it's just the limited amount of time that you have for your passing game. The Jets. If there was one move that I would like for the Jets to make on their team, I would draft a guy to put alongside Garrett Wilson. Take a little bit of the pressure off of him. Assuming Devontae and Rodgers are truly gone, which pretty much everyone knows, you go and you get yourself another wide receiver. So that whoever you have at QB, they won't really have that many excuses. The Cowboys, get yourself a wide receiver as well. Either that or a tight end in this draft. Now, your running game, I think could be fine. I think it picked up at the end of the last year because you actually started to run it at a consistent amount. So I don't think it's as pressing a need as everyone thinks for you to get a running back. But get another wide receiver. You need someone besides CD to be able to help him on a consistent basis. New York Giants. Continue to build your offense. I like Tracy. I like Neighbors. You need a legitimate tight end. There are some in free agency, a couple that I think would be good. And then there's a number in the draft. I don't think you find your QB this year, to be honest. I think, but get another wide receiver. So if you do end up sucking and you draft a QB next year, they'll actually have some weapons. Philadelphia. This is tough with such a well-rounded roster. But I'm going to say this, bold hot take. Get another wide receiver. Devonta Smith kind of disappeared. He kind of disappeared in the Super Bowl. He didn't really do that much. Not that he needed to, obviously. But it's like Brown is good, but often disappears as well. Wasn't, based on his statements, wasn't like completely satisfied with the Super Bowl win because I think he knows that, that their passing game could be better. Washington, get a wide receiver. Trade for Higgins, even though it sounds like the Bengals are going to try to pull off a ludicrous kind of thing where they try to keep Hendrickson, Chase, and Higgins. You have the cap, you have, the dollars, just get T. Higgins. So you have another big-bodied guy that can do contested catches and then give defensive coordinators fits all year. That like, hey, yeah, we covered these guys well, but it cost us so many men to do so, and then Jaden Daniels is running all over us. Make it a nightmare for every team playing you. And maybe it doesn't have to be Higgins, but just any guy that can, cause panic, with how well Jaden Daniels played and with how scary McLaurin is. The Ravens. They need a wide receiver. Bateman, Flowers, obviously Mark Andrews is a tight end. But you look at this team, and they don't really have anybody else that they use consistently at wide receiver. Truly make this offense undefensible. And if one guy goes down, you're not with just one guy to count on. Or two guys, Andrews and Bateman, because Flowers missed the end of the year. They have Flowers, it might be a different story going into the Super Bowl. Bills, Ravens. Bengals. Fix your damn O-line. I think the defense will fix itself. I think they still have a good amount of talent. Now, if they get rid of Hendrickson, then maybe it doesn't fix itself. Fix your O-line. Protect Burrow, who's criticized the team. And he can do that because he's literally a Hall of Fame level quarterback with a crappy O-line his first 5 years or whatever it's been now. The Browns. To fix this team, it isn't trading Myles Garrett, which they've doubled down that they're not going to do. But you don't have cap, and you don't have a QB that you can apparently trust. But your O-line also sucked. You got hardly any weapons for, wide receivers. I guess you have Judy, who, really proved the doubters wrong this last year. Which I kind of thought, well, he can do that. But it's like, what do you do on this team? Maybe be bold. Don't draft a QB, but draft Ashton Ginty or something. Replace Chubb with a guy who's physical as well. As much as I don't want Ginty to go there, maybe that's what you need. You need a true bruiser, and you need to establish a run game again. And actually establish a run game. Steelers. I wouldn't say there's really an issue on your roster besides QB. But you don't really have the ability to get a good QB this draft. Here's what I would say. I would say that this team needs to re-sign some of its more valuable players that are underutilized. That being Najee Harris. but I don't think they're going to be able to re-sign him, or the asking price is just way too high. And actually utilize them like they should. You know? But maybe fix your O-line. Your O-line was shoddy. Maybe get another wide receiver for help. You know, I said there's nothing really wrong with... I don't think there's anything, like, abysmally wrong with their roster. I just think that they aren't performing how they need to. Moving on to the Bears. Get a true bruiser at running back. Get Nick Chubb, a guy who's been a bottom dweller, who obviously if he goes to the Bears, technically they were a bottom dweller team last year, despite what everyone wanted them to be, what they thought Caleb Williams would be the best, you know, fan-proclaimed wide receiver trio in the NFL with a good tight end and Cole Kmet as well, who, you know, shows up in moments. And then a defense that doesn't need any fixing, rare. You know, and that forced turnovers, kept teams down in points, kept their team in games for the most part, where the offense just, yeah. But yeah, get Nick Chubb, or get, you know, as much as I would hate it, Ashton Jeanty, and fix your O-line. Get a real pound running back to complement the defense. Start pretending like you're the Lions, honestly. Because I think that's all they're really missing. I do think, you know, Caleb Williams, you know, had it rough with the O-line, but he's also just got to, you know, hasten his internal clock. Because a lot of the sacks were caused by his untimely, you know, patience. The Lions get an edge rusher. That's it. That's really all you need to do on this team. Get an edge rusher to go opposite Aiden Hutchinson, or maybe line up right next to Aleem McNeil. It'd be scary. I remember before this last season, we were talking about Chris Jones. You know, if he didn't stay with, you know, the Chiefs, that he might have went to the Lions. And I was like, no, I don't want that. Chris Jones and Aleem McNeil? But if they, I mean, in a deep defensive interior draft with also some good edge rushers, sky could be the limit for the Lions, despite them losing both coordinators. The Packers. My team draft an edge rusher that could be an instant impact, or you know, just any sort of pass rusher. Whether it be some interior menace to go alongside Kenny Clark, who is much more known for his clogging and run stuffing ability, you know, and unwillingness to move. Who cares where the pressure comes from? Or get some freak to come on the edge, like some linebacker. Minnesota Vikings. It might be a bold take as well, but get a true power back. Seems you're going to keep Aaron Jones, but get a power back that is going to make teams commit when you're down low in the red zone. And if you want to pass it, O'Connell, just run some play action. I'm sure McCarthy will be able to do it. You don't need Darnold. I'm not going to say re-sign Darnold because I don't think that's pivotal to their success. You get a true ground pound running back to make one of the most formidable offenses ever. You have Aaron Jones. Maybe slide him out. You're in I form or something. You end up having like Hawkinson, Jones, Jefferson, Addison, and you know, and then you know 2 running backs, and then or whatever, and you slide Jones out to a slot wide receiver because we all know he's great at catching, to be honest, for a running back, and then you threatened with a power back, and teams don't know which way to look. They're like, who the heck do we defend? And you fix your red zone offense. That's my advice for you Vikings. Get a true pound running back and you use them as, like, whether it be a decoy or whatever. The Texans, fix your O-line. I know a lot of teams, fix your O-line, but we all know Stroud his first year was, performing miracles and throws and dimes. Last year, good Lord, was he on his back a lot, and he panicked. He looked a lot more like Caleb Williams, his second year without the athleticism, than he did, the first year of himself, CJ Stroud. Where it's like, accurate ball thrower and whatever else, but it's like, keep this guy upright, or he's going to end up like Burrow or something. The Colts. What do we do to fix this team? Their defense was bizarre. Their defense was low effort. Get a culture changer for defense. Because some of these guys just, the feeling that I got late in the season was that, like, oh, we don't care about winning. We're just going to go to Malibu or somewhere, and enjoy our vacation. We acted like we already earned what we needed to, and we're getting paid. Get a culture changer for defense, whether that's an edge rusher, whether it's a stud linebacker, somebody that changes your culture on defense. Jaguars, get a pass rusher. I know we have, Josh Hines-Allen, but it's like the pass rush was abysmal last year. People wanted to shit talk the defense. I don't know if it was because of the morale. I almost feel like it was because of the morale on the team. Doug Peterson did not know how to get these guys ready or pump for game day and whatever else. But to me, your offense wasn't, the greatest, but I personally feel like it had to do more with coaching, and it's like, who the heck knows with this new guy, obviously, but like, get an edge rush on defense. I think you have the weapons you need on offense. The Titans, fix your O-line. I don't think it's pivotal that you draft a QB. I actually am still somewhat of a believer in Will Levis. I do think some of his throws were very like, what are you doing? What are you doing? But I think that Will Levis suffered from a bad O-line too. It's like so many of these teams, I think they don't realize what they have at quarterback because they put him out there to die, and leave him to the wolves. It's like what people were saying about Drake May, except for I don't know why, but nobody gives the same privilege to every QB. That it's like, well, Drake May's, shouldn't be put out there because he'll get mauled to death. Oh, this guy sucks. Even though it's like he's pressured, immensely quick on half their dropbacks. The Falcons. You need an edge rusher. Get an edge rusher. Get a young guy that's going to be twitchy, competitive, fierce competitor. Really kind of lead that, that defensive front like a Nick Bosa or a TJ Watt. Just find the guy that has the most tenacity and you draft him on defense. Because I don't think it's a personnel problem on defense. I think it's a lack, except for on the D-line. I think the D-line, they're not terrible, but it's like they need, a pass rusher. It's how you beat the great teams. Pass rush. The Panthers, grab a wide receiver to go alongside Xavier Legette. Thielen, I think, will always be kind of a serviceable guy, a clutch guy who does good things, out of nowhere. But he's getting older. He decides to come back. The only other thing I could say besides a wide receiver is if you don't believe in, who you have, is to get a tight end. Because I think that Bryce Young proved that he can be the guy. He just needs more weapons. The Saints. get a wide receiver or get another running back. Get a guy that can ground and pound, and then when you use Alvin Kamara, you use him as a, like an option kind of guy, a dude who can, like, maybe an option, he leaks out. You do a lot of kind of disguise looks. I honestly think they could, get rid of Carr and start Rattler. It sounds insane, but I think that Rattler did some good things with like no talent practically. It was like the Giants of the South, except for they didn't have Malik Neighbors because Olave was hurt. They had so many bloody injuries. Like I still don't even remember who there was like one guy, and I still can't even remember his name, of who did somewhat well against my Packers when we played them. And I mean, granted, we shut them out, but they still moved the ball a little bit. But it's like, get them something that, will take some of the pressure off, because I think they're going to roll with Rattler after they get rid of Carr, because it doesn't seem like Carr wants to take a pay cut, even though it's like, dude, you're not that good. Like, I'm sorry, you're a bottom 12 QB in the league as far as I'm concerned. Moving on to the Buccaneers. This is a team, get a pass rusher as well. I think the only thing missing on your defense is what you had when you won the Super Bowl years ago with Brady. And it's when you had JPP and I forget who was lined up opposite him. The only offensive suggestion I could say is to maybe get a tight end as well. Imagine this team, when they had Gronk, Evans, Godwin. Godwin's obviously going to move on more than likely. But it's like you look at McMillan, their wide receiver. That guy's fine, and you can develop him. And he may not be as good as Godwin was in his peak, but it's like he was still doing really well, even in the playoffs when he, played. And he could develop nicely, and he was a rookie. So it's like, yeah, get a tight end, but get an edge rusher, someone to where it's like, if your defense is a little banged up, you can disguise it with, good edge rush play. The Broncos, get a running back. Your defense is fine. Reigning defensive player of the year in Pat Surtain. Best corner in the league, I'll say it. He's definitely better than Sauce at this point. Because, I mean, he can tackle really well and cover just crazy well. So, Denver, get yourself a good running back, a solid running back. I thought they had a guy, Williams, that, could blossom, but he just seemingly is a guy that's serviceable, but not the guy. Get a running back. And maybe a wide receiver. I think that Mims started to develop really nicely, and I think in a system like Sean Payton has, you really only need two guys, that are producing at a super high level. And if you have an accurate passer like Bo Nix, he can get them the ball in tight windows. Kansas City. Draft yourself another wide receiver. I know that a lot of guys are leaving you. I know that you likely, are going to lose a lot of guys. You don't have a lot of cap space, but get another wide receiver. Maybe a tall guy, But then now the Raiders, start to, Raiders, you need to fix your O-line. That's been bad for so many years. It's kind of crazy to think that Josh Jacobs 2 years ago now had like 1,600 rushing yards or something behind that crap line. But it's like, get an O-line. You'll never know what you have really at a running back or at a QB if they're constantly getting pressured and beat up. The Chargers. You need to get a true running back that is going to be able to carry the load if you don't re-sign J.K. Dobbins. Not saying J.K. Dobbins can't carry the load, but he was kind of injured, and he's been injury prone. And then a wide receiver. I think you're good at tight end. I don't think you necessarily need a tight end, but you could also go there as well. I think your defensive unit proved good enough, and maybe, and an edge rusher possibly, because obviously Bosa and Mack could both be gone, which seems nuts to think about, but kind of likely. But you can make it happen. And you could maybe compete for the division next year, because the Chiefs are not going to be crazy different, but they're losing pieces, and they're going to have a lot of new pieces on offense. The Cardinals, grab a wide receiver. You already have your running back. I think that Kyler Murray can play really well. He was at early last year. Very, very, very well. But get another wide receiver. I'm not sure what to say about your defense besides getting an edge rusher. You can't know what you have if you're constantly giving unlimited opportunities because of virtually unlimited time in the pocket to opposing teams. The Rams. I think you actually continue to build on this defense. I think the offense, you just want to, get some stud linemen. There's a lot. I mean, not to say that Stafford understood pressure very, very well. If he's gone, you really got to address O-line. Stafford was just, he's just, the model composed quarterback. And it's like, if you don't have him, if you don't have a guy who's super composed or who can get it and flick it out quickly, then they're just going to suffer like any of these other guys getting beat up last year, like Caleb Williams and CJ Stroud. San Fran. I'm actually going to say to grab an edge rusher. You got Nick Bosa, who got somewhat beat up. He obviously missed an entire year, his second year with the ACL injury. You look at their defense, and they've never really solidified it. They've had journeyman for 3 straight years. The latest being Mike, Floyd, who I like, but is getting up there in age, being a career journeyman essentially for a while now. But yeah, get another edge rusher. I think that, even if you trade Debo, I think you're better off without him. I think your offense is more pivotal on Christian McCaffrey being healthy more than anything else, just about. Maybe your O-line, you have Trent Williams, who's up there in age, but still playing like a baller. But it's like, clearly without CMC, Brock Purdy struggled to carry the offense with an average running game. And then you look, and like I said, the defense, you're losing a corner in Charvarius Ward, but like, what's the best remedy to, making your corners look better is putting the QB on their back and not giving them a chance to throw. Now the Seahawks. Just work on your O-line, and maybe draft, if you're really going to trade Metcalf or get rid of Lockett, get a wide receiver, obviously, because JSN, is one guy and he's a slot guy. It's a lot easier to cover a dude if he's always working the middle of the field where the most abundance of players is, and you need an outside guy. In terms of defense, get yourself a linebacker like you did last year that will stuff the run. Make it hard for other teams to run on you, because there was a little bit of a time there where their run defense was very, very bad. And it's really hard to win games if your defense is getting completely gassed to the point where you can't defend the run all game, and then they can do whatever they want late in the game. And even if you somehow manage to keep it close, your defense is going to be gassed, and you're going to need to be the last team on the field to take the lead or hold the lead. And it's like, not every team can do that. Not every team's the Chiefs or has the Chiefs' luck. But that is what I would do, my main points on each team this offseason. Now, tell me what you guys think or what you would do in your opinion. But as always, this is your host, Casty Streeter, the host of CastCast. And go Pack Go.